Hey guys, it's Ken Maxfield, otherwise known as the Hide Guy, and this is our weekly market recap for the week ending August the 28th. Last week started out in the big Packer trade with offer lists that were noticeably more populated. In fact, many of the Packers were being accused of having a full complement of offers. Also, interesting enough is many of the Packers on the offers they listed had shipments for September shipment, which is not just days away, but this is a stark contrast to the beginning of the month of August when a lot of the Packers, if not most of them, were laying claims that they were sold through the month of September into the month of October. As far as asking prices last week, things were pretty much, for the most part, $2 lower than the week prior. That said, a lot of people pointed out that even with that reduction in asking prices, that sales last week were even lower than the asking prices for this past week. That caused a lot of concern in the marketplace. What was interesting to note as the week started out, there was some interest from some of the respective tanners. However, a lot of that interest was deemed to be way too aggressive. Packers really didn't want to counter those ideas. However, by about the middle of the week, it became apparent that they really weren't going to be able to minimize the declines to only a couple of dollars. So a lot of these Packers went back to their respective customers saying, okay, what can we do on these bids? And a lot of these customers said, no, we're done. We will wait till next week. Obviously, the sentiment is that prices are under pressure. They're moving lower. Lots of stories about special offers and at ideas, if the reports are correct, well below the official asking prices of the Packers. As far as business last week that was concluded, excuse me, I got a little bit of a watering of my eye going on there, so I apologize. There were some hides sold, obviously, when Packers take less money. They always are looking for big quantities. Of course, they'd like to do something for prompt shipment because, let's be honest, the last 4 to 6 weeks, sales just haven't been as where they need to be. You've seen the positions of most Packers dwindle, and I think a lot of these guys have a lot more loads for sale than they're willing to admit. So business last week, excuse me, I'd call it okay. I think maybe even decent. The question becomes, was it 650,000 hides sold? That's a question mark. A lot of guys, being buyers, are reluctant to do anything right now. Leather orders are on hold because of all the issues going on with the shipping. People aren't picking up their finished leather. That's forcing tanners to reduce soaks. If they got to do that, then they don't have the money to open up LCs to take product. Well, then there's issues with containers, that there's not the availability of empty containers. There's not vessel space. There's issues with factories being closed. I mean, the whole thing is just all twisted together and interlocked, and it's just creating an absolute mess for people selling hides. And then you've got a knock that is about at 650,000, running well, slightly higher than last year, and it's not going to back off because Packers are making a ton of money. In fact, if the reports you read are correct, last week that we just finished was the highest earning week for Packers on record. They aren't going to stop killing. So it's a bit of a sticky wicket, to say the least. On the cowhide side, same story as the Packers side. Producers have full offer list, prompt shipments, wanting to try to minimize declines by a buck or two. Just like the big Packer market, bids came out early, well below those ideas of the sellers. They wanted to try to ignore those bids. They went back later trying to massage them, trying to get them up, and a lot of guys just said, hey, we're done. Again, a lot of special offers. It's just kind of the same old story that we're seeing in the big Packer market, and then end of the day, the market's just under pressure. As far as the harvest last week, it came in at 651,000. That's slightly down from the 665 the week prior. The down was due to some internal issues at some of the plants, just not being able to get enough people to work because they have been working their staffs very hard. All of the packing houses are running at under capacity as far as labor that they could hire. I've talked to some packers who said they could hire 100 people tomorrow at some of their plants, and that would get them close to being full. So just crazy, just like anywhere you drive around, there's help wanted signs everywhere. Last year, for point of reference, 654. So we have killed about 850,000 more head this year than last year. That's up about 4%. As far as the export report, it really wasn't anything to write home about, especially as far as the sales go. Total sales, 349, call it 350,000. That is about 50,000 more than last week. But again, the average for the quarter on combined sales is 443,000. That compares to last quarter at 513. So we're averaging 70,000 less hides a week. The bright spot of the report were shipments. Wet salted shipments were a marketing year high, which was good. But there again, here we can't get containers unloaded, and now we put more containers in the system loaded, and we're just back to this thing that I talked about earlier, where the thing's just so intermingled, and it's just getting to be a cluster truck, as people would say, the polite version of it, mind you. Taking a quick trip around the world. This one's been a little bit long, so I apologize, but there's been a lot of things happening in the U.S. Europe's still on holiday, wrapping those up. They're trying their best to keep the market steady. They got one eye on the U.S. market. They're recognizing that, they're not going to be able to get more money. They're probably going to, thoughts that they were going to get more money in September have now subsided. Looks like a lot of them are trying to, hang on by their fingernails to keep prices steady in September. I think, it's going to follow probably this U.S. market as well. Down in Brazil, prices are under pressure there. That's just due to the, again, issues I talked about earlier where lots of Southeast Asia is locked down, restricted, not running. They buy a lot of that product out of South America. So in Brazil, particularly, fresh hides, steady for the most part, only because the kill is running lower than last year. Wet blue prices under pressure, drifting lower. Australia, even though they're not knocking very many animals because of they've got more than ample rain, they got record cow prices. They've got just the opposite situation of the States. Their packers are getting kicked in the kneecaps. They're losing hundreds of dollars a head. That's keeping the harvest numbers low, in addition to problems with Delta. So even though those lower numbers, people in Australia are begrudgingly admitting that they're taking a little bit lower prices, and it's probably going to follow that tone of that U.S. market as well. So, overall, it seems like it's kind of a supply is exceeding demand type of a time right now around the globe. So, as far as next week, I encourage you to take a free trial at my website, www.themaxfieldreport.com. You can, see my thoughts. You can read, of course, read about them, see what's going to happen. You don't need to just check out this blog. As I continue to tell people all the time, know it before your competitors, and the reason you know it's because you're subscribing to the report. So that's all for this week. Ken Maxwell, the Hide Guy, will check in again next week. Thanks.